I'm in the game still rapping at a high capacity. If Nas wants to smoke, come in the booth. I will rap
He don't want
circles
no
around.
smoke. He enjoying that 150 million, 200 million he done
Okay
made.
then, so then leave me alone while I'm on the field.
You was effing with him. He wasn't vibing.
Really know who Nas is. If he's 22, he's born in 03.
Not all of them.
Jim Jones was never better than Nas. Jim Jones will never be better than Nas. And this is coming from somebody that's not a Nas fan. I love Dipset. I love The Diplomat. I love Bird Gang. But we not about to start rewriting history because Jim Jones got confidence.
Jim Jones walked into a podcast, dropped a casual hot take, and accidentally kicked off one of the most unexpected storms hip-hop has seen in years. It started like any other debate. Artists talking legacy, influence, who really shaped the culture. But then Jim leaned in and said it straight. He's more influential than Nas. Not just relevant, not just hot in the streets, but more influential. That's Nas we're talking about. The God MC. Illmatic, one of the most respected pens in the game. The second those words left his mouth, you could feel the energy in the room shift, like everyone suddenly forgot how to blink. And the craziest part? Jim wasn't joking. He meant every word. But what he didn't see coming was how fast that moment would snowball into something way bigger. Because while some fans were still catching their breath, one man heard those comments and didn't waste a second.
I never got to, Did I ever got to see Nas? I never got to sit down and have a conversation with Nas and things like that. I had called you about it and things like that. That was like still one of the people that I never got to have a conversation throughout my history of rap and things like that. I think I would love to have a conversation with Nas. I wouldn't know if he knows it, but Nas was one of my all-time favorite rappers coming up and things like that.
I've heard you say that.
Since the barbecue and things like that, like he really put the whole dope boy rap, crack hustler, get fresh rap into perspective before anybody else.
50 Cent, no interviews, no tweets, no verses. Just one cold, silent move that had the internet scrambling. Jim thought he was just sparking a culture conversation. Instead, he stumbled into a decades-old minefield of beef, reputation, and receipts that not only dragged 50 into the mix, but resurfaced a story the industry had tried to forget. And the wildest part, Nas didn't say a word. He didn't need to. Because while Jim kept talking, the silence around him got louder, and far more dangerous.
Recently saw a clip on Instagram where a young kid was comparing you to Nas and saying that you got
that's my young boy.
Big hits.
He's wild.
Yo, he looked to you. He learned how to wear the BB Simon belt from you. He got his swag. Like, how crazy is that? Because in my era, you know what I'm saying? Nas is like a god.
In my era. But remember, Nas' first record, The Barbecue, came out when I was in 11th grade.
Yes.
So Nas was my idol when I was young. Like you did, came to dressing, the wordplay, the music, everything. I was a superior Nas fan, period. I'd never take that away from him. But then as I got in the game, you gotta realize that your rivals would be idols, and not to take anything away from that, I developed my own style and my own lane that these kids start to gravitate towards the same way I gravitated towards Nas when I was younger and things like that. It's a whole different generation. I came into light and started going crazy that these kids love me. They don't really know who Nas is. If he's 22, he's born in 03.
Not all of them. Some of them know.
You know what I mean?
A lot of them know.
That podcast moment didn't just stir the pot. It flipped the whole table, set it on fire, and left the ashes blowing in every direction. And before the smoke could even clear, Jim was back, this time on a different platform, ready to fan the flames even harder.
No, me, Jim Jones. No diplomats, no nobody else. Me, Jim Jones. Check my track record, then check everybody else's track record. Then go to the billboards and check all my entries, then check all them entries and and I'm not taking nothing away from nobody, but I hear the comparisons and then be trying to act funny when it comes. No, I've been spanking a lot of this about the industry. I've been putting on.
So here's where things really start heating up. Jim Jones pulls up to a podcast with Fat Joe and Jadakiss. Sounds like a casual sit-down, right? A little rap talk, a little reminiscing. But then the topic of influence comes up, and Jim wastes zero time. He says today's kids don't really know Nas like that. Says young rappers look up to him for style, for attitude, for presence. And just like that, he casually drops the now infamous line that he's not only more relevant, but more influential than Nas. On camera, with a straight face.
Let me ask you a question, Jim.
Mm-hmm.
You smoke, right?
Yeah.
Were you smoking when you said you better than Nas?
I might have been a little bit.
Shannon Sharpe, he wasn't letting anything slide. He pressed Jim right out the gate. but it's what Jim said after that had fans pausing the episode jaw dropped.
I'm way more influential than Nas, and I don't care what nobody say. I know I made a little boo-boo when we talk about the sales and all this type of. I don't feel like getting into that rhetoric about where I started and where he started.
Well, you said that
But listen, Nas was nice when I was in high school. When I was in 10th grade, Nas came out. Nas was dope. We appreciated him. He had a little bit of run. Nas always came up second to Jay and DMX and all these other people. Like,
ain't no shame in that. There a lot of folks came up second to Tom Brady.
He never had that type of influence on us, except for his first album. I already told you, I used to want to dress like Nas because he had a lot of fresh clothes that the hustlers used to wear, and we used to see him on TV. He had one of the illest albums of all time. And then in high school when he had the barbecue and shit like that. So I'm a real fan of Nas, but he kind of lost me after the movie Belly and shit. Like,
Joe and Jada kind of laugh it off at first, like maybe he's joking, maybe just hyping himself up. But Jim doesn't blink. He doubles down, then triples down. And within minutes, what should have been a fun interview turns into a viral moment that has the entire internet flipping tables. Fans start posting Nas's discography like they're building a legal case. People are pulling stats, streaming numbers, lyrics, awards, the whole nine. The comparison isn't just controversial. To a lot of fans, it's flat out disrespectful. And while Jim's riding the wave, feeling the attention, something else is bubbling in the background. Because not everyone is laughing. Some people are watching, quiet, calculated, one of them being 50 Cent. And when 50 goes quiet, that's when you know things are about to get messy.
Oh, you been in this thing, but lyrically, I'm gonna keep it a stack with you.
Yeah,
y'all
but look how you dress.
Nas.
Look how you dress. You don't even be in the same places I be in. I can
be in the church house. You can't F with Nas lyrics. I don't know who told you that. Now look, I know you on that good stuff, but you're not seeing Nas.
You got a bunch of 40 and 50-year-olds in their panties because I said I'm better than Nas.
It don't matter.
Look at you. Look at you.
Ain't nobody from Dipset gonna take you over Nas. Nobody from the Diplomats but you.
Hold on, Jim. Hold on.
That shirt too tight.
Hold on.
Jim. You want to go back to I really mean it? I really mean it started. If you could go back to the history, bro.
But you didn't even say that, bro.
So while everyone's still arguing over whether Jim really meant what he said, 50 Cent makes his move. And he does it with 0 words. No interviews, no freestyles, not even a petty caption. Just one post on Instagram. A screenshot, a federal document, and at the very top, in all caps, it reads, Individual 1. That's it. No names, no extra context. But if you've been paying attention, you already know who that's aimed at. That label, Individual 1, goes back to the Tekashi situation, a moment that had the whole hip-hop world holding its breath. And according to court transcripts from back then, Individual 1 was a high-profile figure mentioned in connection to certain conversations that had the streets buzzing.
I'm still playing at a high level.
Hey,
you check my record,
you jumping up and down.
I'm still playing at a high level. I'm rapping at a high level. You better check my stats, bro. I will run circles around Nas rapping right. I will run circles around Nas rapping right now. Right now, I will run Saturn around Nas right now rapping.
This is the biggest podcast you ever been on. Do you know a podcast you've been on bigger than this one?
Hold on. We off topic. Hold on.
This is what I do. You see
Name a podcast you've been on bigger than this one. When you get big, you get invited to Club Shay Shay.
This is what I do.
Nas get invited to Club Shay Shay.
Now, let's be clear. Jim Jones was never officially charged, never publicly named in court, and never arrested over that situation. But the internet, they connected dots faster than a conspiracy thread. And when 50 dropped that post, no caption, no explanation, the message was loud and clear. It wasn't just about rap anymore. This was about reputation, about credibility, about legacy. It was the digital version of 50 looking across the room and saying, "You sure you want to keep talking?" Suddenly, what started as a wild take on a podcast wasn't just rap banter. It was a shot that woke up old ghosts. And fans? They knew exactly what 50 was doing, setting the stage, letting the silence work harder than any diss track ever could.
You gotta start buying baggy your clothes, big fella. You too big, man.
You talk about you in the gym. Now you want to get me? You want me to see me in the gym?
Oh, we can do that.
Since you like to talk that ish, now come see me in the gym.
We talking about working out. What we talking about? Working out or strength? What we talking about? Working out or strength?
Work however you want to do it.
We talking about
since you got money.
And we talking about
put your money where your mouth feels.
So you talking about working out? I burn
stacks.
You talking about working out? I burn you.
You talking about working out of strength. Because you probably can lift a lot more than me.
Whatever.
You're bigger than me. You're probably stronger than me. But if you talk about working out, I'll burn you.
This ain't what you do. This ain't what you want. You are doing good when you talk about Nas and Jada. You don't want to see this.
See, here's what a lot of people forgot in the middle of all the podcast drama. This tension between Jim Jones and Nas didn't just pop up out of nowhere. It's been simmering for over 2 decades. You gotta rewind all the way back to 2002, when Nas randomly went off on Hot 97 and threw some serious shade at Cameron. He didn't just critique the music, he straight up called Cam's whole album trash, and didn't hold back at all. That rant hit Dipset like a slap in the face. And Jim Jones? He didn't take it lightly. He jumped into defense mode and made it personal, quick. He started firing back on mixtapes, in interviews, even in street talk. It was all shots, no filters. Jim started painting himself as the one who wasn't afraid to go toe-to-toe with a rap legend. And for a minute, it looked like Dipset versus Nas was about to become a full-blown war. But here's the twist. Years later, Jim completely flipped the tone. Out of nowhere, he started praising Nas again. Said Nas was his idol growing up, that he used to dress like him, admire his pen, everything. For a while, it seemed like the past was water under the bridge. There was peace, respect, mutual admiration. And then, boom. Out of nowhere, Jim's back on the mic claiming he's more influential. Just like that, the vibe shifts again. And fans are sitting there like, wait, how do you go from fanboy to competition in the same breath? The energy got weird. The respect started sounding like shade in disguise. And if there's one thing about Nas fans, they don't let those kinds of comments slide. So now the old beef is back on the table. But this time, it's not just about words. There's way more at stake.
And God, honestly, I can't, if it was like Jim Jones, imagine putting a pen to paper to write about him. He was so nice. He was so nice about him. How did you do that? What's the first sentence? What the fuck are you writing about him? I'm not anxious to hear the Jim Jones diss right. Yo. He used to have so nervous was like B.I.G., Pac. Right. Even Cannabis, like Eminem, he used to have you like, if we go at it, dog, we gotta go hard. You know what I'm saying? But these Jim Jones, I respect you getting your money. You're like, exactly, right?
So just when you think things might cool off, Jim Jones walks straight into another storm, this time on Shannon Sharpe's Nightcap podcast. Now keep in mind, Shannon isn't a rapper. He's a retired NFL legend, a Hall of Famer, not someone who usually jumps into hip-hop beefs. But the moment Jim doubled down on his Nas comments, Shannon wasn't having it. First thing out of his mouth was a joke. Sure. Were you smoking when you said that? But the look on his face? Dead serious. What started as a light roast turned into a full-on interrogation. Jim tried to steer the conversation into fashion, swagger, influence, and how the younger generation follows him more than they follow Nas. But Shannon kept pressing, like a lawyer with a witness who won't give a straight answer. Then it turned personal. The convo flipped from lyrics to lifestyle, and suddenly they're comparing gym routines. Jim challenges Shannon to a workout battle right there on the show. That's when it got wild. They start roasting each other's outfits, calling out each other's physiques, like it's about to turn into a fitness influencer feud instead of a hip-hop discussion. And Oseno, the other guest on the podcast, just sitting there in the corner watching the whole thing like a fan at a live taping of reality TV. But here's the kicker. While Jim's puffing his chest and talking gym stats, Shannon starts calling him out for dodging the real topic. He says straight up, "You're ducking, you're trying to flex because your words don't hold up." And fans? They ate it up. Comments were flying. People saying Shannon did more to defend Nas in 5 minutes than Fat Joe and Jadakiss did in that entire first interview. Jim tried to spin the moment, make it sound like he was just promoting himself, just creating buzz. But at this point, it didn't feel like promo anymore. It felt like desperation. And in the middle of all this noise, one man still hadn't said a word. Nas, not a tweet, not a post, not a single bar, just pure silence. The kind of silence that speaks way louder than anything Jim was saying.
I'm hiding out in Texas. Please, whatever you do, don't tell them I'm in San Antonio. Don't tell him I'm staying at the Four Seasons. Don't tell him, please, don't tell him, man, because it's just so much pressure on me right now. I don't know what to do.
Now, while Jim's out here making noise on every podcast he can find, trading gym challenges with football legends and stirring up headlines, 50 Cent is doing what he does best, playing the long game from the shadows. And if you know anything about 50, you know when he goes quiet, that's when you need to start paying attention. Because this wasn't just about Nas anymore. That podcast moment gave 50 the perfect excuse to reach into his vault of receipts and pull out something old, heavy, and ruthless. See, the beef between 50 and Jim has history, and not the kind that fades. Go back to 2007, when 50 brought Jim and Juelz Santana on stage during a G-Unit concert, right at the exact moment Dipset was publicly cracking. To most people, it looked like a power move. To Cameron, it looked like betrayal. And ever since then, 50's kept that moment in his back pocket like a chess piece, waiting for the right time to move it again. Fast forward to 2019, when Jim's name popped up in court transcripts during the 6699 trial. He was never officially charged, but that individual one tag stuck like glue. And now in 2025, the second Jim says something spicy about Nas, 50 doesn't argue. He just drops that label back into the conversation. No context, no warning, just boom. And the internet goes wild. People start pulling up wiretap quotes, side-by-side comparisons, everything. And the wildest part? Jim knows exactly what 50's doing. That's why instead of firing back with a diss track, Jim starts posting Jim selfies and nostalgia throwbacks. It's like he's trying to distract the timeline, remind people of the Dipset glory days, keep things light. But the tension's still hanging heavy. 50 doesn't need to say much. His silence is calculated, his moves are surgical, and he knows exactly how to make the room uncomfortable without ever raising his voice. And all the while, Nas is still keeping his cool, letting the noise swirl around him. Because deep down, everyone knows, once Nas speaks, it's game over.
Yeah, Jimmy boy, you should have never brought this up. Y'all are only 3 years apart, and Nas is just like murdering you. You asked us to look up the stats, and here they are. Like Jim Jones, like you got a couple songs. I mean, like literally, it's a couple. But we're talking about Nas. Let me show y'all Nas's last projects. Nas been getting it in since 2018. Jimmy, when the last time you put out an album? Oh, would you look at that? You have been dropping music. You've really been dropping music. But nobody's heard it. Nobody's listening, bro.
At this point, Jim Jones realizes he's standing in the middle of a cultural wildfire. But instead of backing off, he leans in and tries to flip the script. Suddenly, it's not about Nas versus Jim anymore, it's about generations. Jim starts saying the whole controversy is just old heads refusing to pass the torch, that he's speaking for a new wave of artists and fans who connect with him more than with the lyrical gods of the past. He points out that kids today don't bump Illmatic. They watch his style, his hustle, his energy. He says he's got younger artists looking to him like a blueprint, the same way he once looked to Nas. It's not arrogance, he claims, it's evolution. And he doesn't stop there. Jim even starts dropping little marketing gems, telling fans every time the internet digs up his past, his streaming numbers spike. Says all this controversy, it's just free promo. Claims he's playing chess while everyone else is stuck reacting to checkers. And yeah, he might sound confident, but underneath all that bravado, people can sense the spin. Because the fans who've been following hip-hop for years know the difference between influence and attention. Nas helped shape the sound of a generation. Jim helped define a moment in the streets. 2 different lanes, 2 different levels of legacy. And while Jim keeps tossing out jabs at anyone over 40 who dares to disagree, the comment sections start pushing back hard. Some say he's clout chasing. Others think he's just trying to stir up noise to stay in the algorithm. But whether it's a generational clash or a marketing masterclass, one thing's clear. Jim's betting everything on this moment. And if it backfires, it's not just his image on the line, it's his place in the culture. So now here we are. Jim's still talking, 50's still lurking, and Nas still silent. No posts, no subs, no studio sneak peeks. Just cool, calculated quiet. And that silence? It's louder than anything being said. Because if Nas ever does decide to respond, it's not going to be for the likes. It's going to be for the legacy. And the way 50's moving, that wiretap smoke he dropped might just be the beginning. Some fans think Jim's playing checkers on purpose, turning every diss into a marketing moment. Others believe he's walking into something way bigger than he realizes. Something where the next move won't be made on a podcast or in a post, but in a way that shifts how people see him, permanently. And that's the wildest part. Right now, the stage is set. Everyone's watching, but no one's saying what really needs to be said. So if you're still here, you've seen the full story. From throwback beef to podcast chaos, quiet power plays, and deep internet sleuthing. Now the question is, what happens next? Will Nas break the silence? Will 50 drop the next piece of the puzzle? Or is Jim about to flip it all again and turn the heat up even higher? Either way, this story's far from over. If you're into hip-hop drama that feels like a chess match disguised as a roast battle, go ahead and tap that like button, hit subscribe, and drop your thoughts in the comments. Is Jim wild for this? Or is he actually playing everyone? Either way, you won't want to miss what happens next. We've got more wild stories loading. And trust me, the next one's even messier. See you there.